Welcome to MCN. Now, this video is a little thank you to everybody that's subscribed to this channel over the years. And we've now hit 400,000 subscriber total. So a massive thank you to everyone that's taken the trouble to press that subscribe button. Now, we've made, since we started in 2006, almost 3,000 videos. That's a lot of videos over the years. And that was at a time where the road test team was myself, Chad and Trevor Franklin. So it was us three. And I guess you could almost say that we were the original motorcycle influencers long before social media existed. But it's been an amazing journey, all the videos we've been making. And I thought that it'd be impossible really to choose our favourites over all of those years, 20 years, all of those videos. But I thought I'd pick out 5 that kind of sum up where MCN was kind of in the motorcycling world, our place in the motorcycle world. So the first one I've chosen is from 2006, one of the first ones we ever did. And it was a how to get your knee down tutorial video with an MCN reader called Anthony LV. Let's play this one through. He contacted us, he wanted to get his knee down. And the interesting thing is, this is very much of the time, I look really young in that and really fat. It's really, it's hard to look back on these videos from my point of view, as I'm sure it is anybody that looks at their old photos. But I was 36 then, and you know, it was the mid-noughties, I was in my 30s, and all anybody really cared about then was sports bikes, mainly. There was still lots of other bikes around, obviously, but we were still sports bike obsessed, and we were still, one of the sort of the rites of passage of riding a sports bike was getting your knee down. So, A, we're showing someone how to get their knee down. Most people wouldn't even bother nowadays. B, we're showing it on the road, which we definitely wouldn't be allowed to do now. But it's really interesting how, and also the quality, the YouTube quality isn't very good. So Anthony ended up getting his knee down on the video. That was the conclusion to the video. And it was all about body position and everything in between. But, you know, I don't really think that MCN would really make a video like that anymore, but it was definitely of the time. And there were lots of other kind of stunty videos as well. We did a how to wheelie video which had millions of views. We did that at an airstrip, Bruntingthorpe, with readers as well. Again, it's probably socially irresponsible to do wheelies now, as it always was, but that was definitely of the time too. Next, what have we got now? So we're going to choose a video from 2009. So this was a car v-bike video. Car v-bikes always go really well because there's interest from 4 wheels and 2 wheels. On this occasion, we did this video in Almeria, and we had a Ferrari 430 Scuderia and a Desma Sedici RR. They both belong to the same person, an MCN reader called Gordon Cooper. And he very kindly let us ride his Desma Sedici. We were going Desma Sedici mad at that point. It come out in 2008. I'd ridden it at its launch. We rode a few road bikes on the road, but we got a chance to ride this kind of track-only Desma Sedici, which had the race kit put on it. He'd put a 17-inch rear wheel on it instead of the standard 16, so you could choose good tyres. It had proper Pirelli racing slicks on it. And the idea was to answer that kind of age-old pub debate, which is fastest around the track, a car or a bike. And in this case, we had 2 very exotic machines. Now, as always, the bike always wins because the acceleration is just so incredible. Theoretically, a car can go around corners faster, it can brake later, but because the bike has accelerated out of every corner so much quicker, the car can never get close. And we've done quite a few of these car v-bikes over the years, and it's always been the same story. I think the only cars that can keep up with bikes are pucker racing cars, and even racing cars with some kind of downforce as well. But again, it was of the time. You know, I used to live in leathers back then. I was probably overconfident. I wasn't really worried about throwing somebody's £150,000 motorbike around a racetrack. We also did another test with a 1098R with this bike, and I remember riding with Bruce Dunn, our other road tester at the time, just almost knocking handlebars through the corners for pictures as well. And when I think back on it, it makes my blood run cold if anything had happened, but it didn't. But yeah, they're always fun to do, and having a GP bike versus an exotic Ferrari, I mean, that's a day at work for you. So let's move on to a similar kind of thread. So this is a launch report. We've done hundreds, maybe thousands of launch reports in the last 20 years. Obviously, MCN's been around a lot longer than that in print, nearly all over 70 years now. And we generally nowadays will always produce a video from a launch. Back then we were a little bit more selective. Our video team wasn't that big, and MCN as a newspaper was the big focus. But we're definitely more invested in video now as well. But this was a launch really like no other, because although we'd seen a GP bike on the road before with that Des Mitsubishi, and you could even argue a Suzuki RG500 or Yamaha RD500, but this really was special. This was a Honda road-going MotoGP bike. This is the RC213 VS. So really the chassis and the engine was much like the kind of customer MotoGP bikes of the day. So it wasn't like a replica of the full factory MotoGP bike, which would have had pneumatic valves and Exotica written through it like a stick of rock. This is more based on their production racer, but very, very, very special. We got to ride it at Valencia. There's only 5 journalists went. We were one of the lucky few. The launch ran like clockwork by the Japanese HRC engineers. I've never seen so many HRC or Bridgestone MotoGP engineers in one place outside a MotoGP paddock. It was very coordinated, very choreographed. I remember the RCVs were on paddock stands with maybe 5 or 6 Japanese staff around each bike. And when it was time for us to go on track, you had one person would hand the remote key to me, put it in my leathers. One person on the front paddock stand and tyre warmer, one on the rear, one would start the bike up, one would have a clipboard to make sure we were out at the same time. It was very, very surreal and very, just an exotic experience. And the bikes were amazing. We rode the road-going version, which was quite flat really, had 160 bhp and quite sort of road-focused brakes and suspension setup. But we also got to ride the race kit version, which was just incredible. And I suppose it's only really journalists and test riders that would ever ride a bike like this that hard, because if you actually bought one of these bikes you wouldn't want to risk throwing it at the scenery. But an amazing experience. But also I look at this video now, it's only 3 minutes long, and I think, you know, we definitely wouldn't treat a bike like that to a 3-minute video now. It'd be a big epic video, but just a sort of a landmark launch for me really. And then we skip forward a few years, then we've got 2022, and we've got a group test. Now again, MCN does a group test every single week in the paper. We don't do them so much on video, but we're starting to do more and more now. And this was our Superbike shootout of the year. So 2022 really was when Superbikes really became kind of very exotic. You could argue quite irrelevant, as the prices have gone up and up and up. They're no longer kind of every person's bikes anymore. You know, when I first started at MCN in 2002, the pinnacle of our testing year would be to do a Superbike group test and a Supersport group test. And they were the bikes that everybody was riding. So they were really, really important. You know, maybe sort of the peak of that time would have been 2004, 2005, when the Japanese really stepped up their game and produced these amazing superbikes that was kind of always dominated by the GSX-R1000 of the day. But time moved on, and this 2022 group test, we got the M1000RR, Panigale V4 SP2, Aprilia RSV4 1100 factory, 200 brake horsepower superbikes with full electronics, real sharp chassis. You know, choosing the winner between these is just like splitting hairs, as it always was, because they're all amazing. And we're here in Sicily at the Peragusa racetrack. We've been lucky enough to have a relationship with Pirelli over the years, who've facilitated a lot of our group tests. So for this particular one, they helped us out with the circuit, with control tyres, and sort of the time for us to do the test. I think the Ducati would have won this test. I mean, back in the day, Ducatis in the 916 era, the 999, the 1098 era, the early Panigales, never saw the front of a group test podium at all. But in recent years, as the V4's evolved, it really has steamrollered all of the Superbike road going group tests, and also you can see that kind of going on in the track. Superbike group tests now aren't as important as they were. You know, they're also incredibly good that normal riders like me couldn't even begin to push them to the limit. If you think of a new Panigale V4 now and how Pecco Bagnaia can lap within 3 seconds of his GP time at Misano, you know, when you choose bikes like these, you just choose the one you want, basically. They're still fun to do, and we still do them occasionally, but our group tests now have evolved into nakeds and retros, and finally, for our videos, adventure bikes. So this is a group test from 2023. Adventure bikes have evolved from, you know, when I started back in the day, they weren't that popular, but you could see when the Long Way Round TV show came out with Charlie and Ewan, how suddenly adventure bikes became very aspirational things. As riders started to get older, they didn't want to crunch themselves up on super bikes, they didn't want to go fast everywhere, and the evolution of adventure bikes has been really interesting because nowadays they've got as much power as those super bikes of the noughties. They've got more technology, they handle beautifully, but they're bikes that are very comfortable. You can do long distance on them, so they really have come of age. And this particular group test, we took this as seriously as we would have done with super bikes back in the day. So we had control tyres, we had a road element, we had an off-road element. We did the test at Sweet Lamb off-road facility in Wales, and we had TT rider and Dakar competitor James Hillier with us, who actually did some time lapse on the bikes, which was frightening to see, if I'm honest. Just seeing those massive bikes being ridden, hardly touching the ground around this course that we created, which was just a fun thing to do. You're not going to be racing these big kind of road going adventure bikes, which are basically touring bikes. They're kind of chunky, Jeep-like, Tonka toy-like touring bikes, which you wouldn't really go mad off-road like James did, but it was interesting to see. It was fun to watch and really fun to do. And, you know, that kind of just sums up the evolution of group tests as well. So, I mean, 20 years, nearly 3,000 videos. It's been incredible. I've learned a lot over the years. It's the video kind of evolution has followed my evolution through MCN as well. I hope we can carry on and make another 3,000 more in the next 20 years. I hope we can double our subscriber count. So, you know, again, I've got to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed. If you haven't, please give us a click, give us a like. It's greatly appreciated. And here's to another batch of videos in the future. Thanks very much for watching.